The auditorium hummed with the usual mix of anticipation and casual conversation, the kind that floats in the air during talent shows when no one truly expects the next contestant to be unforgettable. Crew members adjusted cameras, judges whispered among themselves, and the audience settled into their seats, ready for another performance that might entertain them for a moment and then fade from memory. Nothing hinted that the next few minutes would change everything. Then, stepping quietly from backstage, a small figure emerged, a 12-year-old Filipino boy with bright but nervous eyes. He walked toward the center of the stage with careful, almost hesitant steps, clutching the microphone with both hands as if it were the only thing anchoring him in place. His posture was shy, his smile timid, but there was something about his presence that drew attention, even before he spoke. The judges glanced at him politely. Simon Cowell skimmed the boy's information card with a look that suggested he wasn't expecting anything extraordinary. The audience watched with mild curiosity, some leaning back, others checking their phones. No one knew that a storm was about to break. The boy took a deep breath as the music track started, the familiar opening of an Elvis Presley classic. A soft ripple of amusement spread through the crowd. A kid attempting Elvis. Many had tried before, and most had failed. But the boy didn't react to the murmurs. Instead, he closed his eyes for a brief moment, lifted his chin, and adjusted the microphone with surprising composure. Then he sang. The very first note left the room in stunned silence. His voice wasn't just good, it was strong, rich, textured, and astonishingly mature. It carried the warmth of Elvis's velvet tone, the signature vibrato, and that unmistakable soulful depth that made Elvis a legend. Gasps echoed through the room, followed by the rapid shifting of the judges as they leaned forward in disbelief. Simon's expression transformed instantly. His eyebrows raised, his eyes widened, and the slight smirk on his face disappeared. He looked up from the card, now fully locked onto the boy as though trying to understand how such a voice was coming from someone so young. The audience leaned to the edge of their seats. Mouths dropped open. A woman in the second row covered her mouth with her hands. The boy continued to sing with an intensity that didn't match his age, his voice filling every corner of the hall with confidence and emotion. Cameras zoomed in on the judges' faces, shock, awe, confusion, and then admiration. Every second felt like witnessing the birth of a phenomenon. The atmosphere shifted from skepticism to electric excitement. What began as an ordinary entrance was quickly becoming an unforgettable revelation. By the end of the first verse, applause erupted mid-song, unable to be held back. The boy had arrived, and with him, the spirit of Elvis Presley lived again. The boy's confidence grew with every note he delivered. What started as a shy presence was now transforming into something magnetic, something powerful enough to command the entire auditorium. The more he sang, the more it became clear that his talent wasn't an accident, it was a force of nature. His voice carried a timeless warmth, a depth beyond his years, echoing not just the sound of Elvis Presley, but the emotion behind every word. As he moved into the heart of the song, his stance shifted. His feet planted firmly on the stage, shoulders relaxed, and an unexpected spark lit up his eyes. The audience watched as the nervous child quietly evolved into a performer who seemed born for this moment. The spotlight behind him glowed brighter, almost wrapping him in a soft, golden halo that made him look larger than life. Then came the song's most challenging line, the high note that even adult performers often struggle with. The room held its breath as he approached it. The orchestra paused lightly, the judges leaned forward, and the crowd fell into a deep, electrified silence. Every eye in the room was fixed on him. And then he hit it. The note soared through the auditorium with purity and strength, ringing out like a declaration of destiny. It wasn't just good, it was flawless. The clarity, the power, the control, everything was perfect. A ripple of disbelief passed through the audience as their silence transformed into an eruption of screams and applause. People who had been sitting casually moments before were now on their feet, shouting, clapping, capturing the moment on their phones. The judges didn't hesitate either. All four rose from their seats simultaneously, applauding with genuine admiration. Simon's reaction was the most striking. He wasn't just smiling, he was beaming, clapping with an expression that said he knew he was witnessing a rare star in the making. It was the kind of smile he saved for moments that would go viral worldwide. The boy, now fully immersed in the performance, kept singing through the cheers. His voice remained steady, unwavering. The audience began cheering between lines, unable to contain themselves. Even seasoned producers behind the cameras exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that this performance was about to become one of the most memorable moments in talent show history. As the final note echoed and faded, something remarkable happened. Complete silence returned for a brief moment. A silence not from indifference, but from shock. It was as if the entire audience needed a second to process what they had just experienced. Then the room exploded. The cheers this time were deafening. People jumped, hugged, waved signs, and shouted with the excitement of witnessing greatness. A judge's voice rose through the chaos, exclaiming into the microphone, "We may be watching the arrival of the next Elvis Presley." The boy stood there, overwhelmed, glowing with pride and disbelief. He had not only impressed, he had conquered. The applause still thundered in the air as the boy stood frozen on stage, breathing heavily, his small hands trembling around the microphone. Tears shimmered in his eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that he had just delivered the performance of a lifetime. The judges took their seats again, but each one was smiling, not politely, but proudly, as if they knew they had just discovered something extraordinary. Simon Cowell leaned forward, pressing his hands together under his chin. His expression was softer than usual, the usual sharpness replaced with genuine admiration. When he finally spoke, his voice carried across the silent auditorium like a warm wave. "That," he began slowly, "was one of the best auditions I have ever seen from someone your age. You didn't just sing Elvis, you channeled him." The audience erupted again, clapping and cheering, but Simon lifted a hand slightly. The room quieted almost immediately as he continued. "There is soul in your voice, real soul. Something rare. Something you cannot teach. It is a gift." The boy looked overwhelmed, his face flushed with emotion as he tried to absorb the words. Another judge leaned forward with a wide smile. "When you opened your mouth, we all felt something electric. You brought the spirit of Elvis Presley back to life tonight. You are special." The audience nodded, some even wiping tears from their eyes. The boy pressed a hand to his chest, trying to steady his emotions. And then it happened. The audience began chanting softly at first, golden buzzer," within seconds, the chant grew louder, stronger, echoing through the auditorium like a heartbeat. The boy's eyes widened as he realized what they were calling for. His breathing quickened, and his hands trembled even more. One judge glanced at another, smiling knowingly. Then the judge closest to the golden buzzer placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. Time seemed to slow. The cameras zoomed in. The boy covered his mouth with both hands, shaking his head in disbelief. Then, slam! The judge hit the golden buzzer with full force. In an instant, the stage exploded with a massive burst of shimmering gold confetti raining down from the ceiling. The music swelled triumphantly as the audience screamed with joy. The boy dropped to his knees, sobbing as the golden storm surrounded him. The judges stood and rushed toward him, clapping and celebrating the life-changing moment. Simon placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, leaning down with a rare, sincere smile. "Remember this moment," he said softly. "This is the beginning of something huge." The boy looked up through tears, his face glowing with disbelief, gratitude, and joy. Gold glittered around him like a galaxy of stars. The world wouldn't forget this moment, the moment a Filipino kid stepped on stage and became a global sensation before everyone's eyes.